Hi everyone, thank you very much for stopping by and returning to the old world. Today, we're going to talk about Black Orcs. In particular, the way that I think they've perhaps shifted their role in the grand composition army for orcs and goblins. Now, I think since Warhammer The Old World was released, up until the FAQ errata, the Black Orcs had a bit of an odd position when it came to the army list. I'm not talking about nomadic hordes here because, well, the nomadic war list had the option of Black Orc chariots, which could be used to effectively pay the tax for having a Black Orc character. Not so for the Grand Composition Force, which meant if you wanted a Black Orc warboss, which you probably did, then you were paying 60-point tax for a minimum size Black Orc mob. And we saw that, I think, quite a few times. 5 Black Orcs just hanging around trying not to get killed. A waste of 60 points as lists became more and more efficient. But I think things have changed now, and the role of the Black Orcs has definitely developed. So let's have a little bit of a look. What is it that you get? Well, you've got a unit of heavy infantry. Useful, they can be deployed 4 wide if you need to in order to get your rank bonus. You probably want to go a little bit wider than that because, well, numbers and staying out of march columns are definitely a thing. For 12 points, you get a creature with a weapon skill of 4, a strength of 4, and a toughness of 4, plus a leadership of 8. And that's not really anything to sniff at. Weapon skill 4 makes them better than an awful lot of the core stuff that's out there. It means they're going to be hitting on 3s and means there's going to be very little in the game that's going to hit them on anything better than a 4+. Really something that's useful for their resilience. I think toughness 4 is also useful if you're in a straight up fight against other blocks of infantry and stuff like that, because again there's a lot of strength 3 out there, so making people wound you on 5s, or even if they're using things like halberds or you're being shot with crossbows, etc., only being wounded on 4s is so much better than being wounded on a 3. Their strength 4 also nothing to be sniffed at, and actually I think gives them a little bit of versatility. How so? Well, it means they might be willing to make a charge against other blocks of infantry because when you look at their special rules, and we'll touch on them in a second, it does favour them when they're charging, or at least that's traditionally how they've been before the change in the rules. What else do you get? Well, they come as standard with hand weapons and full plate armour. So they've got a 4-up armour save before anything else changes. What can they be equipped with? Well, you've got the choice of additional hand weapons and great weapons. Unit models can also take a shield. Now, it is a choice between great weapons and the additional hand weapons, but everyone can take a shield. Now, with the new infantry rules, they're not going to be able to take advantage of parry. If you've got full plate armor, a shield, and a hand weapon, you already are at that magic armor save value of 3+, so you can't get better than that. So parry isn't going to help you. However, a toughness 4, 3-up armor save unit, well, that is quite a useful addition to your core allowance. And Black Orcs can be core. You can, if your general is a Black Orc, have 1 unit of these lads taking up a core slot, which means that not only can they bash up your opponents potentially, they can also be used to score objectives throughout the game. Add in the ability to give them stubborn or veteran, then you've got a unit which, add in battle standard bearer or a character of choice to help make them a bit more lethal, a unit which isn't going anywhere quickly. This is a role they've quite simply not had before. Before, they were a movement 4 infantry block in a time when you wanted cavalry, so boar boys, you wanted wyverns, masses of night goblins with all of their shenanigans. But now you've got something here that can reliably take and hold ground. The big thing for me is a couple of their special rules, however. 1, quell impetuosity. That's quite useful if you don't want the things around you randomly charging off. So if you've got a unit of orcs, maybe you're using them as arrow boys or something, you want them to hold ground, hold your backboard, your baggage train, stuff like that, it's going to stop them lurching forward unnecessarily. But what they've also got is motley crew. And no, I'm not talking about the 80s hair metal band here. This gives them the ability to fight with a mix of weaponry. So you can have, now that we're fighting in 2 ranks, that big front rank of plate armor and shield, tanking the hits with their toughness 4, their 3+ armor save, sucking out the damage thrown at you by a charging enemy. And then the second rank hitting with their great weapons, so hitting at strength 6 with armor penetration. Something that could do the potential for a lot of damage. Now, I mentioned earlier that they also have a little bit of versatility, which perhaps they haven't had before, at least not so overtly. This comes with having Furious Charge and the Chopper rule. So choppers, that means a re-rolling a natural to wound of 1 and getting +1 armor penetration when the unit charges, and Furious Charge adding to the number of attacks. Now, they will be sacrificing that second rank when they charge because you need to be static, receiving a charge from an ongoing combat in order to get that bonus. But you're still, because of Furious Charge, that front rank is still fighting with 2 attacks as opposed to 1 attack. So it really mitigates that weakness. And then comes a bit of a choice. When you're going in, you've got initiative 3. If you've charged a reasonable distance, you're looking at initiative 6. You're probably going first against another core unit. What do you want to be fighting with? Do you want that front rank that have got the shields to have great weapons? So they're suddenly down to initiative 1 standard +3 for the charge. So initiative 4 probably going first, but maybe not. Or do you give them additional hand weapons? So another attack each with strength 4, re-rolling 1s to wound, and getting 1 pip of armor penetration. I think here we need to bear in mind we're probably, if we're launching a charge into another core infantry block, going into something with a minimum of a 4-up save in the turn that it's charged. It'll have light armor, it'll have shields, probably using the parry rule. So our natural bonus for choppers means that on a 5-up, that armor save will be successful. That negates 1/3 of the wounds that we cause. A great weapon, however, well, now we're attacking at strength 6. So we're wounding a lot of the time on 2s, if not 3s. And we've got our normal armor penetration of 2, which becomes 3 with the chopper rule. This should really help them cleave through enemy models and cause a lot of damage because there's very little core infantry that's going to have an armor save at the end of all of that. So if you've gone wide, let's say you're 10 wide, that gives you 10 attacks basic, +1 if you've got a champion, so 11 attacks. That becomes 21 attacks if you've got the Furious Charge off. Over half of those will be hitting, so say 12-ish hits, turning into probably 8 to 10 wounds. You're smashing through models. You're going to be taking off at least a full rank, if not more. So there's going to be minimal attacks coming back. And then your opponent's looking at hoping that they have got a huge amount of static combat res, or that they've got some other shenanigans like shield wall, or the fact that they're undead and therefore going nowhere. Before the FAQ and errata, despite recognising that your Black Orc warboss was simply better than your regular warboss, I was really reluctant to go down that angle because I didn't want to pay 60 points for a unit of Black Orcs. Now, I think that position is very much different, and we're not talking 60 points in attacks of a useless model count of 5 just to get the model you want, which is the warboss. Now Black Orcs, I think, have a real purpose and can be invested into, with some of the tricks being powered down, such as, well, the Night Goblin spam, because the change to the poison rule, etc., and the shooting rules. The desire to have a block of reliable heavy infantry that can take ground and then hold it is going to be really a thing. And I'm definitely coming to appreciate the concept of Black Orcs far more than I ever did before the FAQ and errata. Will they appear in my army? Well, I've got a lot of painting to do at the moment for my Empire, for my Imperial Guard force. So it does mean that I'm sadly in no rush at all to buy any more models. However, they are definitely going to be, I think, on the wish list as I try and make my Orc and Goblin army ready for 1.5. I know a few people were watching that series of videos as I was trying to get that Force tournament ready. I've not really got confidence in it at the moment. It does need quite a lot of work, so I'm afraid you're going to have to wait a while until I find some space in the painting diary to get back to that particular force, but I will be turning to them at some point in the future. I have no doubt. All that remains for me to say is thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this video and the quick look at the role of the Black Orcs and how that's changed post FAQ and errata. If you've enjoyed the video, as always, do consider a like and subscribe. It's a really good way of helping our channel. It costs you absolutely nothing, and with the subscription, gives you information about when the new videos are dropping. So thank you once again for listening. I am returned to the old world. Have a great day.